Austin. How you doing today?
Good, Dad. How are you?
I'm good. I say this every week, but I'm more and more honored when I say it is, we're privileged to sit at the doorstep of another story. And today our journey is going to take us inside the heart and mind of one of my former coaches and one of Roll Tide's finest big men. His pedigree speaks for itself. Alabama captain, NFL player. But this is a story about towering presence and his quiet confidence, gentle spirit, and a love for kids. My name is Coach Karcher, and I will be your host today. And alongside me is my son, Austin Karcher, as we welcome Dennis Alexander as our guest to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Hey, Dennis.
Coach, how's it going, man? Good to see you guys.
It's good to see you. It's
good to
nice
see
to
you.
see that smile.
Yes, sir.
Well, Dennis, let's just get kicked off right away and take us back to the growing up days in the Alexander home, maybe where you're born, and just tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I was born Memphis, Tennessee. Right on the southern edge of the state, right on the Mississippi line. We had a lot of family that migrated from Mississippi that came up to Tennessee in my older family, my grandmothers and things like that. They were born in Mississippi and they migrated to Memphis. So I was born and raised there. Come from a pretty large family. My grandmother, she had 10 children.
Wow.
Yeah, she had 10 children, man, and all of them were awesome. Actually had 6 uncles and 4 aunts, or 3 aunts, including my mom. All of them are my size. My uncles are, so it's not hard to see where I get the size from. But yeah, man, they migrated from Mississippi, and like I said, I was born and raised there. I went to started off at Westwood High School in high school. Just kind of got my playing days, going there, starting off. But even before that, man, I was we grew up in a household where we believed in God. We loved God. We went to church. We participated. We were, Bible studies on Tuesdays, choir rehearsal on Wednesdays, singing in the choir on Sundays. It was just an awesome time growing up, man. But we really loved God.
You sang in the choir?
I sung in the choir. I directed the choir.
There we go.
Being in church, I was an usher. I played the drums for a little while.
What was your favorite song?
Oh man, I don't know if you guys know this, man, but it was like the first song I ever led in church where I was actually the soloist with the choir. It was Kirk Franklin. It was called "Rain Down on Me."
Oh, awesome!
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you do a little lyric here?
Oh man, look, I was hollering all day yesterday, so it's gonna be a lot of cracking in that if I do it right now on the field, man. But that was my song, man. We sung it all the time in church, man, and I really enjoyed doing it.
That's
what
awesome.
What about your siblings, Dennis? How many siblings did you have growing up?
Yeah, so I had one sister. She's 4 years younger than me. Crystal, that's my dog right there now. Everything, we grew up together. We went everywhere together. We hung out with cousins together. We have some of the same friends, even though there's a little bit of an age gap there. But she's doing well now. She's actually living in Texas right now.
Okay.
She's been living there now for the past 4 years, and she's
okay.
doing real well.
Awesome. Do you get to see her much?
Yeah, so we actually went there this past Christmas. We took a family trip, and we drove from Birmingham to Prosper, Texas, which is about 9 hours from here. So we got in the car and we drove up, and we spent time with her and my mom in Texas. Just kind of hung out for the holidays and stayed there for about a week and a half, and then came back.
How would you describe your childhood, Dennis? And do you have a favorite memory, maybe?
So my childhood was very family oriented. Like I said, we had a large family of uncles and aunts, and they had multiple kids as well too. So I have a large group of cousins. And it was kind of like those were like our best friends at the time because we hung out with them all the time. So, my childhood life was filled with, spending the night over their houses over the weekends. It was somebody's house every weekend that we were picking to go and spend the night. And, their parents, we were going over somebody's house. The other parents were relaxing for the weekend. They were just kind of sending us everywhere from week to week. But, we have a really, really close bond with our cousins, man. And like I said, we hung out all the time. We used to go to our grandmother's house all the time as well too, and hang out over there. But just like I said, just our fondest memories, man. It was just those sleepovers that we used to have. I mean, we were up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, wrestling, playing hide and seek in houses, just good old fashioned fun. You didn't have a lot of electronics and things like that. We just kind of found natural ways to have fun, and those were like the best moments that we had when I was young.
The good old days.
Yes.
So when you look back growing up then in your home, what would you say is maybe one of the things that has influenced who you are today, Dennis?
I would say number one, my parents, and the foundation that they laid in me is just, and me and my sister, to be honest with you, for just number one, just being good people. Before I could say anything, I mean, and that we had a foundation in our whole family about, going to church and being Christians and things like that. But just being a good person, treating people how you want to be treated, and that was instilled in us at a very, very young age. And that's something that's just kind of stuck with me the whole time. That doesn't mean that always happened for me, that people treated me right. But I always just tried to make it a point of, no matter how they treat me or no matter what they think about me, I want to treat them the way that I want to be treated. And I think that's just kind of stuck with me, from a little kid all the way up until
now. Describe your relationship with your dad.
Whoa. Yeah, that's my dude right there, man. We were really, really close. And I say that, when I was young, my dad, he traveled a lot. He worked with FedEx.
Okay.
He traveled a lot. He did a lot of training. And he traveled all over the place. I mean, he was going out of the country. He went to places like Singapore and Japan, China, and he was, doing these different training things he was over like de-icing planes back during that time. They were having, certain equipment they were using, and it was I think FedEx was the only company that actually had it. So he was one of those people that trained, just other people on how to use it and things like that. So he was going all over the country and doing it. And, seeing him, interact with my mom, interact with my sister every day. And then, just me as his son, just loving on me every single day, supporting me, whether he was, out of town or whether he was in town. It had a big impact on my life because he showed me what a man was supposed to do. He showed me how a man was supposed to act around his wife, around his kids. He just showed me what it was to be a man in general. So, our relationship was awesome. He was fired up, about me when I started playing football in my junior high days. And he encouraged me the whole time I was there, even though I wanted to quit a couple of times. He encouraged me to, kind of stick with it. And, just that encouragement that I got from him, that went a long way for me, just him being my dad and being there for me and encouraging me and, and pushing me and telling me that he loved me, all those things that really matter. So our relationship was awesome, man. I had a really good time, with my dad growing up.
Awesome. Was there a memorable conversation that you had with him?
Yeah, we had some good ones. I tell you one, I guess it was memorable, but it wasn't fun for me. I can tell you that.
Those are usually the best ones.
Yeah, I think it was like my 6th grade year, man. I was, this is when I was starting to get real active. I was, wrestling outside one day with some kids after school, and I knew I was supposed to go straight home. I didn't, and I kind of stuck around out there. And we were just, just having fun. It wasn't anything serious. And I messed around. I left my coat out there, man. And
Yeah.
my mom had actually just bought the coat. And I
Mm.
went home, and I walked through the door. And my dad's like, "Where's your coat at?" I'm like, "Dang, I think I left it in. I think I left it in the school." He said, "You better come home with that coat tomorrow." And I went back to school the next day. I tore the whole school up looking for that coat and could not find it anywhere. And I know what I did. I left it outside because I
Yeah.
took it off while I was wrestling. And somebody probably picked it up. I'm pretty sure that's what happened because it was a nice coat. I had just gotten it, and I left it on the ground, not thinking about, to pick it up. And I went back home the next day, and he met me at the door again. "Where is that coat?" And I didn't have it, and it was not a good night for me at all. That night
Uh,
ended real quick. But
Well,
that was that was a memorable, definitely a memorable day for me with them. But we had some good ones as well too, man. I can remember, during my high school playing days, we got knocked out of the playoffs my 10th grade year, and I'm walking off the field sobbing and crying, and the first person to meet me at the gate was my dad.
yeah.
He was there to meet me and tell me, he said, "Listen, you don't need to cry. If you left it all out on the field, if you played hard, if you know you did everything you could, there is no need to cry." So
Mm.
it kind of cheered me up a little bit. And, that conversation right there in that moment where emotions were high, it was a memorable moment. That's something I'll never forget.
Awesome. What were some early influences in your athletic career?
Um, I say, so my high school was really, we had some guys there that did some really good things that had some very successful careers.
Okay.
We had a quarterback there, Kenton Evans, that was really solid. He actually owns all the state high school records right now as a
Mm.
quarterback. He was one of the guys that I really looked up to. I wasn't a quarterback, but just seeing the success he had and how well he played and how he went about his daily basis on, trying to, get better and improve was one of the guys that I kind of looked up to. We also had an offensive lineman at the Corey Hampton that was really, really good too. He was like the Gatorade Player of the Year. He played for the University of Memphis, played for the Raiders.
Mm.
Those types of guys they kind of influenced me. Playing ball. My dad he didn't really play much. My dad was in the band,
Yeah.
Jackson State, but those guys, just kind of ball wise, they kind of laid the foundation for me as just some role models that I could see on how to, you know, get to that level that they were, and that was kind of one of my goals was trying to get to where they were.
Who else in you're like your cousins and maybe even your sister was interested in athletics?
Sister wasn't big in athletics. She was my sister's a singer. She sings like in bands.
Okay.
But I can tell you this though, her work ethic as far as practice
Mm.
to be a really, really good singer.
Yeah.
It isn't something to just, shrug at because she put in a lot of time, a
Mm.
lot of work to train her voice to be able to sing the way she does. And to me, it's almost as the same type of schedule that we use as, athletes every day,
Yeah.
to be able to develop her voice the way she did. And she does an awesome job, even to this day. She does an awesome job singing. Just athletically, I'm probably going to say this, and it's pretty much true. I was probably the first out of all of our cousins to try to kind of like make a really deep run in athletics
Mm.
as far as going from high school to college and then college to have an opportunity to play in the professional league. So I kind of had some cousins that came after me
Okay.
that have kind of done the same thing as well too.
Awesome. What has been your what is you talked a little bit about just growing up and what has been the role of faith overall in your home?
Yeah, so it's kind of it's number one for us. We try our best to put God first in everything we do, every decision that we make, as far as what we do with our children, what we do, and we're exploring other options like jobs and things like that.
Mm.
We do our best to try to to make that first, in every
Mm.
decision that we make. And like I said, that foundation, that started with me very early. That was something that my mom was big on. She always told me, DJ, just pray about it. Just pray
Mm.
about it. If you don't understand, if you don't know, just pray about it and listen. Just pray about it and
Mm.
listen. And that's just kind of the path that we've taken, and it's been good for us. I'm not going to say every situation has been peachy and rosy, but I think every situation that we've ever been into was the situation that I needed for me to be
Mm.
able to to grow and to continue to improve. So I think just putting faith at the forefront of everything is got to that's something that we continue to do every day.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned a little bit about your high school career. Were there any other sports you did? Any other? I mean, you sang in the choir. What other passions did you have during that time?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of basketball.
Okay.
Basketball was like my number one deal before I got to the football field. I kind of stopped growing this way and started growing that way. Going wide.
Now, Dennis, tell our listeners, for those who don't know, how tall are you? You
So
can't really tell in this.
yeah, so I'm 6'5". I'm a legit
Yeah.
6'5".
Okay.
I'm a legit
Yeah.
6'5". But the guys, the guys that were out there producing on the court, they kept going when I stopped. They got to about 6'8" and 6'9", and I'm like, man, it's just, I'm down here now. I'm bigger than them. I'm banging them on the block, but they so long I can barely get a shot off. And it's time for me to do something different, man. So it's kind of, it kind of went that way. I had a guy that, came and talked to me in the gym one day, one of the coaches that was on campus, and he just told me, he's like, man, listen, you got really good feet. You need to come out on the field and run around on the field a little bit and see if it's something that you'll like. And I hated it at first, to be honest with you. Going from the court to the field is two different worlds. It's two
Yeah.
different worlds. On the basketball court, you're inside, in an air conditioner. You don't have to worry about, all those other, external, components with the weather and all that stuff with it being hot. So, and I think I transitioned like that summer. So it was like, 90 degrees outside. They got me running laps around the football field. I'm like, bro, this ain't it. This is not it. So, but I stuck with it, man. I actually, like I said, I went home crying a couple of days, but I stuck with it, and it paid off for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite high school sports memory?
Yeah. So there was a team in the city of Memphis named Melrose High School. They were kind of like our rival, but nobody in the city had beaten them in I want to say 5 or 6 years. I mean, they just kind of ran through the city every year. And, it was kind of like us and them, and we just kind of struggled with them every year. It was close games. We just couldn't never get it done. And our senior year, we kind of actually got over the hump. It was, a really big-time game. There were people everywhere. I mean, it was like a little small mini college game. There were scouts everywhere. There were cameras everywhere. It was like a big-time atmosphere. And, everybody had picked them to win, obviously, because they had just kind of ran through the city all year. And, that was one of those games where you kind of like the fans rushed the field for a high school type game like that. So that kind of put us on top of Memphis, for that year. But it was real exciting for us, in our high school days to kind of get that game, because like I said, they had went on a rampage. I mean, they were just blowing everybody out, and it was one of those special nights where everything just kind of aligned, and we ended up. I think we beat them I want to say it was 27-14, something like that. But it was a good night.
Awesome.
So you finish up high school, and tell us a little bit about your recruiting story, and how'd you get to Alabama? Why Alabama?
Yeah. So So when I got out there, I think I got out there my 10th grade year. It was like my first year playing. And like I said, the two guys, Kenton Evans and DeCorey Hampton, they had everybody in the country after them. I mean, they were all coming out there to see him. And, I just kind of got noticed one day, just out of the blue. I think it was like an inside drill we were having. And they were out there to actually see DeCorey and Kenton, but, they kind of got a glimpse of me. I was real green at the time still. But obviously, I wasn't 6'5" then, but I was about 6'3" maybe. And, just kind of caught one of the coach's eyes from Alabama, which was at that time it was Ivy Williams. He was a running backs coach.
Hmm.
And, he just pulled me to the side. He was like, man, if you just keep working, you'll have an opportunity to go play somewhere. And we just kind of stayed in touch the whole time. But, it was more than just Alabama. I mean, I was, obviously University of Memphis was there right there in town. So they had me up all the time at games and, just had me on campus. But it was, pretty much every SEC school was recruiting me really hard. Didn't get a lot of love from like the teams in the Northeast, but I had like Cal, I had Texas, I had Michigan, it was just teams from a lot of places, man. But I kind of stuck towards the South. But that recruiting deal, man, it's good and bad at the same time. Good because you feel all the love, but actually when you step on campus, all the love is gone. But I enjoyed the recruiting process. We took some good trips, me and my parents and my sister as well too. We took all 5 visits at the time when we did it, and Alabama was just one of the ones that just kind of stuck out to us out of all of them. We made the decision to go there after the visit. It was actually after my 4th one. I took a 5th one, but by that time when we got back from Alabama, we all kind of said that was the one. So, but it was a good experience, man, to go see all those places and meet all those coaches, and then a lot of the guys that you see on the visits you end up playing against and or playing with on the team as well too. So it was a really good experience.
What was it on that weekend at Alabama that just clicked that you said, this is it?
Well, I'll say this. When during that time, there was about 4 or 5 guys from Memphis that kind of went to Alabama, and it was like 3 years in a row where they came and got the top guys every year out of Memphis. And, obviously that made Tennessee mad and some other people as well too. That's another conversation for another day. But they were winning. They were getting guys out of Memphis, and when I got down there, they were smart enough to put me with all those Memphis guys. They put me with those guys. It was Ahmad Galloway and Kendall Moorhead and, a couple other guys. And, they put me on the visit with them. They were my host. And, it just made me feel, at home. Made me feel at home. And then we got a chance to meet with my mom and my dad and myself. We got a chance to sit down and meet with Coach Callaway, Neil Callaway. He was my O-line coach. And, it was a refreshing conversation with him, one, but the second thing was I would say he was the only coach that we sat down with that we didn't talk a lick about football at all. It was more than just football for him. And he was one of the best coaches I've ever had. It was more about, me growing, to be obviously to get my degree, to be a good young man. The first thing, and he sold my mom day one. Right when he walked through the door, he told my mom, he said, Miss Alexander, listen, if I'm his coach here, he is not going to get an earring in his ear. I promise you that. My mom was sold after that because she was not big on the earrings at the time. It was becoming a fad at the time, and she did not want me to get an earring. We walked out the door, she was like, this is where you're going right here. So, it was, like I said, it was more about him just, talking more about just life other than just football. And I think that kind of stuck with all of us when we walked out of there.
Awesome. The question is, did the earring thing sell you?
No. But I want to say at the time I was thinking about getting one, but I never did. Like I said, I was just running with everybody else, just wanting to get it just because everybody else had one.
Right.
But I never got it though. And he reminded me, I made a promise to your mom now that you're not going to be just running around out here doing whatever. And, you're going to graduate. So I'm going to keep my promise to your mom. So,
yeah.
But he was awesome, man. And he was really, really good on the field too. Everything that I've learned to this day that I use in coaching now, I actually learned from him. It was really good from him.
That's a legacy right there. Describe your experience at Alabama overall, and how has it impacted you to this day?
So I think what it did for me, obviously the tradition they have there, from winning just with, in Bear Bryant days and, all the way up until now. I think it just, number one, it taught me how to be resilient because I had to work for what I got when I was there. It's crazy y'all asked me this because my son actually just came in here and asked me a question earlier about an hour ago. He was like, "Tell me about your legacy at Alabama." I don't know if it was a legacy. It may have been a career, but when I got there, man, I was not ready to play at all. I was bad out of shape. My football knowledge was not good at the time, and that's normal for some high school guys coming out. A lot of high school guys aren't ready to play at that time, but you think you are when you get there. But I was bad out of shape, man. Like I said, I didn't know football terminology. I didn't know what a 3 technique was. I didn't know what a 5 technique. They were telling me, we were doing a look team one time. They were like, "Dennis, getting a 5 technique." I'm like, "What is that? I don't know what y'all talking about." But I didn't know any of that. And just from them taking the time with me to teach me the game, that stuck with me for a long time with those coaches. But then just being able to go out and perform. I tell you this, man, to go out and perform in front of 100,000 people, week in and week out, that takes some guts. Now that's not the most easy thing to do. And I think it kind of helped build me for what I'm doing right now, just to kind of be, because right now as a coach, you're always on stage. People are always watching. And as soon as you do something wrong, they're gonna let you know. So it kind of keeps you keeps you level headed. Making sure you're doing the right things, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. But just those memories and those bonds with the players that we built while we were there, that's it's something I wouldn't do it over for the world. If they ask me would I do it again, I'd do it the exact same way.
Dennis, people obviously all over the world have an outside-in view of Alabama football. But someone that's been a graduate through the years, what is it that makes Alabama special, in your opinion, Alabama football?
I think it's the people that came before us. I think it's all the players that came before us, the guys that actually laid the foundation before us. I'll tell you this: since I've left EC, I was at Miles for 3 years, and the staff that we put together at Miles, 5 of us all played at Alabama, and it was all different years. To be honest with you, Shea, Coach Shea was the head coach, obviously, but he was a little bit before me. I want to say he got there in the early '90s, but I had a chance to coach with some other guys as well too, and just kind of listening to those guys and hearing their stories while they were there versus when I was there, kind of it blew my mind, man. There's a guy named George Pugh. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. That's his name, George Pugh. He played at Alabama too, and right now he's in his 70s. I had the chance to coach with him for the past 3 years, and he's got tons of stories. But it was I can't remember the date he told me, but I know it was 1 year they played in the national championship in the Sugar Bowl, and this was kind of like when the tie was kind of getting integrated at the time, and he told me about his experience, when he was there and when he played, and how he had to walk around kind of like with armed guards, when he was in the hotel, to get to his room and to be able to get to the dining area where they actually had to sit down and eat a meal. He actually had to have that type of security with him just because of what was going on, back during that time. And, it's just people like him, that kind of, that went through that, and did that for a guy like me, for me to get there in 1999, for what he had to go through, for what he sacrificed back in the 80s just to play football, and to be one of the best that have ever played in that, in that uniform, that goes a long way with me. Just hearing his story, and we've become friends. But I mean, we still talk to this day. And I never knew him before I got to Miles, and I actually just talked to him on last week, man. But he is a legend in his own mind, man, and he's got some stories for you now. I tell you, he's a really good guy. And like I said, for him to go through what he went through to give me an opportunity to go there, it's an awesome deal, man. Like I said, those legends that came before us, I think that's kind of what makes Alabama what it is.
Well said.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast today. Austin, I would like to thank each of you for taking time out of your week to listen to our podcast, Awaken Kingdom Culture. This past year has been truly amazing. The conversations that Austin and I have been able to share as a father and son, the new relationships that we have made throughout this past year, and the ability to share other people's stories have been life-changing. Each week, I continue to be reminded of the value and impact one story can have. As a listener-supported podcast, I'm grateful for all of you who have partnered with us this past year. If this podcast has spoken to your heart and you'd like to see it continue to awaken other hearts and minds, then I'd like to invite you to become a teammate. If you'd like to partner with Win Awakening as well as our podcast, you can give at winawakening.org. And please spread the word about our ministry to all of your friends. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to Awaken Kingdom Culture, Spotify, and YouTube channels. To listen to and watch our podcast weekly, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern. If you'd like to follow my socials as well and hear about the upcoming podcast news, watch the latest clips, and get an inside look at my life behind the scenes, then follow Ken Karcher on Facebook and X and KP Karcher on Instagram. I encourage you to subscribe to our mailing list and to partner with us as we continue to awaken hearts and minds one story at a time. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
What were some highs and lows in your career?
So when I first got there, man, we hit it off with a bang. So my first year was in '99, and we won the SEC championship my first year.
Wow.
We came out. It started off kind of low because we ended up losing to Louisiana Tech on a Hail Mary. I'll never forget it. We were we played here in Birmingham, and everybody hates playing in that stadium because we all say it's bad luck. We'd rather play lose. But we lost on a Hail Mary to Louisiana Tech in that game. And then after that, we just kind of went on the run. Now, we ended up losing to Tennessee as well, too. But after that, we went on the run. We beat Auburn. We actually beat Florida twice that year. One in Florida in the Swamp, and then once in Atlanta for the SEC championship. And then we played against Tom Brady in Michigan in the Orange Bowl.
Okay.
Game we ended up losing 39-40 in overtime. But another really good game, man. Another memorable game. So it kind of started off really, really well, and then it kind of like plateaued a little bit. We had we ended up having a coaching change my second year. There was a lot of talk about things going on in the program with some coaches and things like that, but we kind of plateaued after that. Then we went on probation for a couple of years as well too for some recruiting violations, and it took us away. It took us out of postseason play. We lost some scholarships, lost some postseason play because we actually won the West my junior year, but we couldn't play for the SEC championship. So that that was kind of like a damper as well too. So it was kind of up and down. Like I said, just because of some issues that were out of our control, nothing we could do about it. But like I said, I still wouldn't change it. I still wouldn't change anything in the world about it, man. The SEC championship was probably the highest, the height of it, my first year. Like I said, going and beating Florida twice in 1 year, that was awesome. We beat Auburn down at Auburn on the Plains my junior year and my freshman year. So those types of games right there, obviously that game, that Iron Bowl game, that game kind of speaks for itself. So to be able to go there and win, that was awesome too.
You mentioned coaching change. Now that you're a coach, What advice do you have for players, Dennis, that are going through a coaching change?
Yeah, so I think they have to ask themselves the question: did they go there for the coach? Did they go there for the program?
Mm.
I think that's the number one question they have to ask themselves. If they went there for the coach, obviously the business of coaching, they change. We change in and out all the time. But I would tell guys, that if you do have a coaching change, with the world of the portal and all of that, I would tell guys, to number one, just kind of be still.
Mm.
I don't think there's any reason to get all excited and think about wanting to leave and go to another school because number one, you don't know the person that you're going to. Number one, you don't know the situation, you don't know the lay of their land. Obviously there's going to be some recruiting things there that could happen, but I think I think it could be a situation where God is shifting something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Not just necessarily, a coaching change. It could be that change. That change could be happening for something that's supposed to be happening for you. And I think the kids just need to be patient and wait it out and kind of see what's going on. But I think, right now the impulse of it just happens too fast, and I don't really think they give the new coaches a chance. We moved into a new job this year, and as soon as we got there, we had the same thing. Guys just kind of jumped in the portal and wanted to transfer. And you try to talk them in the stand, be like, hey, listen, at least give it the spring, let see how it goes. But I think guys just need to kind of be still and meditate on what's happening, see what's going on before you jump to conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
So during your time at Alabama, obviously you talked about having a strong foundation from your parents growing up spiritually. What did your spiritual journey look like at this point in your life?
So Jeremiah Castile, man, he was awesome. All right, he was awesome. I know, Coach, you got a relationship with him, but he was awesome, man. He kept us. He kept us. When we were, leaving home for the first time, and kind of stepping away from our home church, and obviously you're looking at that point in time, you're trying to get that balance and figure out, where somebody that can continue to pour into you and feed you spiritually, and Coach Castile was the one for us, man. He was actually our chaplain. And he did a great job of continuing to pour into our spiritual lives. Obviously it was more than just the day before the game,
Right.
but just his presence around the program all the time. That did it worked wonders for me. And just to be able to see him and for him to be able to be a mentor for me during that time while I was away from my home church, it kept me grounded. Obviously I'm not going to sit here and say I was perfect. I didn't do everything right, but his presence, and his influence, it did a lot for our program and a lot for the guys. Being in a new place and a new environment and being able to tap into him and still be able to grow, was awesome.
So you graduate from Alabama. Talk to us a little bit about your transition now into professional football. Did you get drafted? And then tell us about your career a little bit.
No, so I didn't get drafted. I actually was picked up free agent by the Titans, and spent some time with them, there during that season, during the summer, during the season. It was kind of off and on, but didn't stay long. And just kind of I was trying to feel my way through, but it was a really, really good experience with Jeff Fisher there, and then at the time it was Eddie George. So it was a really good experience being there around those guys. Had a lot of fun, learned a lot from them, and being able to to grow from the guys that were around, especially the O-linemen there as well too. Learned a lot from them. But I spent most of my time in NFL Europe. That's where I spent most of my time. So there I got drafted. Ended up getting picked up by the Cologne Centurions. Spent a little time playing for them. And that's kind of where I kind of had my knee injury and it forced me to stop playing. But but the playing time there was, the time that I had when I was there playing was awesome, man. I made a lot of new friends, a lot of new relationships with coaches and players. But just that to be at that level, number one is, it's a dream come true. Number one.
Yeah.
But number two, you figure out, just how good those guys are. And I tell the guys all the time, if you walk into an NFL locker room, they don't all look like me now. I mean, you got offensive linemen there that are 6'2", 280, and they will bite your head off. You know what I mean? But it was a really good experience, man, for me to be there and experience that and to run around with those guys and play with them for the time that I had. But yeah, it was awesome, man. I wouldn't change that for the world either.
You know that Europe was a favorite for our family. Do you have a favorite memory of your European experience?
It's different over there now. It's different over there. They got different rules and all that, man. But like I said, to me, it was more just about the plan because I had a goal that I wanted to get back over here in the States to play. I wanted to get back over here as bad as as much as I could, man. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. And I hate that I couldn't get back to it. That injury really set me back. So, but no, it was good, man. It was an eye-opening experience, man. I loved everything about it.
So now you transition into coaching. Tell us how you knew you wanted to be a coach and how it came to be.
Yeah, so when I was, I promise you, I just sat here and talked to my son about it. But when I was in high school, man, we were a little bit underfunded. We didn't have the resources that we needed to have, and we didn't. My 10th grade year, I had an O-line coach, but my junior and senior year, I did not. So my head coach at the time, his name was Magellan Askew. He paid for me to go to a couple of camps. He paid for me to go to Mississippi State, went to the University of Memphis, went to Tennessee, and he just said, "Listen, man," he said, "obviously, the core is gone. You're going to be the guy. Everybody's going to look up to you." He said, I'm just going to pay for you to go, learn what you can. He said, "I don't know much about the position." He said, "Just learn what you can, come back and try to, teach it to the guys." So I kind of think like right then I kind of knew that that's what I was going to be doing. I was going to be a coach at some point. Because when I got back, I was trying to, I wasn't doing a great job of it, but I was trying to teach the guys those techniques that I learned when I was at the camps. So that's kind of like how my coaching journey got started. It actually got started while I was playing in high school.
Awesome.
How did your playing career throughout Alabama help you as a coach, and describe what maybe your biggest adjustment was going into coaching from playing, Dennis?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, Neil Calloway, he was the guy for me, man. I actually went through 3 different O-line coaches while I was there because we had a lot of coaching changes while I was at Alabama. So that was a journey in itself, having to be able to adjust to every different, coach that walked on campus. But just taking what those guys taught me and being able to, to learn it and then being able to hold on to it while I was playing and then to be able to remember it going into coaching was what kind of got me to where I am now. But those, those moments with them, it kind of shaped me for to be the coach that I am now. I'm not going to ever say that I had a coach that ever, belittled me or anything like that. Now I had some that pushed me, and at the time when you're a player, you kind of feel like that's what it is, but that's not actually what it is. So I think those guys, they kind of shaped me into the coach that I am now. So I'm gonna push my guys, I'm gonna challenge them. But I'm not gonna curse at them. I'm not gonna call them, I'm not gonna call them names. I'm not gonna do any of that stuff. But I'm gonna make sure that they're giving me everything that they got, and that's what those guys did for me. They made sure that whatever I had, I gave it to them. And that's kind of what I believe coaching is: being able to just take a kid or push a kid to where he can on his own. And I think that's think that's the mark. I think that's the mark of a good coach.
Absolutely. Well, walk us through your coaching journey, like some of your stops, and what were maybe some significant moments along the way.
Gotcha. So right when I got done with, well, not right, but about 3 years after I got done with NFL Europe, I was trying to get back, had multiple surgeries trying to get back and never really could. I kind of stayed in Birmingham after that. And I got on with, at the time, it was Justin Air High School, right here in Bessemer, Alabama. I was a position coach there for 3 years. And then was offered the head job after that.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, went from a position coach to a head coach. That doesn't really happen. Wasn't really good at it. Really struggled our first 2 years. Third year, we did a lot better. We ended up going 6-4. My first 2 years, we were 2-8, but we had a lot of turnover at the time. We were trying to figure it out, and going into my third year, I think we kind of figured it out. We ended up going 6-4, but they brought in a new principal, and she wanted to bring her own guy in, so ended up having a coaching change there. So I ended up leaving Bessemer and going to Shades Valley High School.
Yeah,
I was there at Shades Valley for 1 year, coached under Bill Smith. He was the head coach. I went there to be the run game coordinator. Coach guys like Deron Payne, guys like him, and he was.
So we played against you then, because I was at Oak Mountain at that time.
Oh
so.
Man, yeah,
That's
right, yeah.
I remember Deron. He was awesome.
He was a big boy now. He was a big boy. He was really good too. But yeah, so once I got done at Shades Valley, that's when I came to meet you guys down in Decatur, Mississippi. Good old Decatur, Mississippi. Down in Mississippi. And that's been like one of my longest stops, man. I was there for 8 years. And obviously, you guys know the moments we had there, man, being able to, kind of turn the program around from where they had been. And, just the those 2 years we had back to back there, going to the playoffs, going to I was about to say Music City. Heart of Texas, boy. I can tell you now, one of my fondest memories of that now was seeing your dad up on the stage singing the song, man.
Oh God!
I can't remember
I'm sure your singing's a lot better than that. So
I can't remember the song it was, but he, you know what? Nobody sitting out there. We was like, man, he is not finna get up here and sing. There is no way he's gonna get up here and sing. And we were all saying, the players were saying, and we was like, there is no way. And he got up there and he sung the song. I can't even remember what song it was. I was laughing so hard. I can't even remember, but that was
a heart of Texas, I think it was.
Yeah, that was a great moment right there to be able to see that, and just that was a fun time, man. That was a fun time because we obviously we know the what it is to play a game and to have to win, and then to get to that moment and just kind of breathe a little bit and have a little bit of fun. That was awesome right there. That was an awesome time. So I think in my EC days, that was like one of the most memorable times right there. Just to go there, we rode a bus down. I had my wife with me, and just to go there and just kind of hang out for a few days. That was good. That was something that was really needed. So after that, kind of went through a couple more years. That 2020 COVID season we had, man, and that was another one. That's another memory right there that I really, that one was tough, man. Having to try to wear a mask outside in 100-degree weather in Mississippi and all that. That was funny, man. It was funny. It was funny, but yeah, man. I loved my time at EC. I loved it at EC. Just being, like I said, being able to hang out with you guys, to be able to make those those lasting relationships with you guys, and just not you guys, but the players too, and then the people around campus. Guys like Mowdy and all those guys that. That we got got a chance to hang out with all the time. That was a really, really good time for us down at East Central. We loved it. We loved it down there at Decatur. It was really nice. It was quiet. I could let my kids go outside and not have to worry about them. Didn't have to worry about locking my door at the house, any of that type of stuff. It was a good time. It was a good time. And then after that, left there and went to Miles and was over there with Sam Shady. Offered me an opportunity. went there first year, man, and we stunk it up bad. We went 1-9. It was really, really bad. But we kind of turned it around really quickly. And that next year we ended up going 7-3.
Awesome.
We ended up going 7-3. We just barely missed the championship game. And then this past season, I got promoted to the OC.
Oh, awesome.
First time, yep. Got a chance to call some plays a little bit, man. We ended up improving. We ended up going 10-3.
Awesome.
We won the conference championship this year. We got chosen to have a home playoff game for the first time ever in their history, and we actually won the first playoff game ever in their history this year. And
awesome.
Actually had a chance to go down to Valdosta to play them, and we had a chance to beat them, but we just came up a little bit short, man. So that was kind of like our time there at Miles, and now we're here at Alabama A&M. So we got an opportunity here now to kind of, do some good things here too.
So Dennis, when you look over your career and where you're sitting now, for our listeners, why does Dennis Alexander coach, and what is it like to be coached by you?
I think I coach, number one, because I want guys to understand. I want my players to understand the value that they have. Just number one as a person, not just as a player. Obviously we feel like we get all of our, value as playing football. And I'm guilty. I was that as well too. I had a lot of, what I did in my life and who I was in football. And and I try to say something to my guys every day about it. That obviously football is good, and I like to use the term that you use all the time. It's a tool. You know what I'm saying? To better your life, but it's not who you are. Because at some point it's going to be over with you, and if you don't have anything else about you once your football is over, then it's gonna set you back, and it set me back for a while once I found out football was over for me. And I just try to keep that in front of my guys the whole time to just kind of start jogging them, just to start thinking about, all right, what am I going to do once football is over? What am I going to do when it's over? And that's kind of what it looks like for me every day. We're going to have fun on the field. We're going to jump around. We're going to get pancakes. We're going to knock guys down. We're going to game plan. We're going to communicate. We're going to eat well. We're going to have times where we're going to sit around and eat at the house. We're going to have good conversation. We're going to talk about women. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about what it is to be a man. All those types of things that are important. But I got to make sure my guys understand that at some point football is going to be over. And I want them to be able to call me, yeah, coach, football is over, but now I just took a job here at the company to making, $100,000 a year, or, get that call to say, the coach, man, how you doing? I just had a son and he's doing well. I got a wife, kids. Those types of things that are really, really important. That's what it's like, playing for me. It's not just going to be about football every single day. We're going to play, we're going to practice, but every conversation is not going to be about football.
Describe the differences, from your opinion, between coaching in high school and coaching in college.
I think college, you just get to spend a lot more time with them. In high school, you only get a few hours a day. And, obviously they go back home, with their parents, and they're back in their environment. I think college is a little bit more intimate because, you're on a college campus. Now we have time restrictions, but I think the relationship and it's a little bit more personal. Because, like I said, because of the time that you have to spend with them. And number one, because, like I said, it's not just all football conversation. We're talking about academics. We're talking about, what are you going to be doing when you're just walking around school, how you present yourself, how you need to dress, how you need to speak, just those types of things that we're trying to get our young men to understand, how to portray yourself as a young man. So I think it's just a little bit more intimate on the college level than it is in high school.
Well, let's talk about what I know is very important to you, and that's your family. Tell us about your wife, your children.
Yeah, so I got two kids. My daughter right now, she's 7, and she is doing awesome right now. She's in tumbling, and I think she may be the best athlete in our family right now. She flips and does all types of cartwheels and splits, and she does an awesome job, man. But I'm so proud of her. Both of them really doing an awesome job in school. They're both getting good grades. Teachers rave about them. And, that's one of the biggest things I tell them. Go to school and do well.
Mm.
Make people have something good to say about you.
Mm.
She's doing awesome. Like I said, Dennis is doing well, man. He's 13 now. He's growing like a weed. He's not in little boys' clothes anymore. I think this past Christmas we bought all men's small clothes. He fits them all. Come on, man. So like I said, he's doing awesome. Like I said, he's coming into his own self. Like I never thought in a million years that I would be raising a kicker, but I am. But I'm proud of him. He said he did it this year exclusively for the first time in middle school. It looked like he got better while he was doing it, and I think he's excited about doing this well too. But he also played basketball too, so he was a 2-sport guy this year. But he's also doing well in school. He's getting good grades. He's got great behavior. Neither one of them, other than keeping the rooms clean and picking up behind themselves. That's probably what we fuss at them about the most. That and arguing with them, picking each other all the time. But other than that, that's about it. I love my kids to death, and they're one of the reasons why I go as hard as I do. And my wife, I can't say enough about her. Coach, this. Any wife in a football home is the rock. She's the queen of the house. I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have her here.
Right.
She's right now with me being in Huntsville, she's staying back with the kids right now. They're gonna finish up here in Birmingham before they come up this summer. But for her to be able to stay at home and handle them and handle all of the errands and taking them where they need to go. Sometimes I feel a little bit bad because I'm not here, all the time. I try to either come here on the weekends or they come up to Huntsville with me on the weekends. But, for me to be able to live out my coaching dream, I have to have her, and she's so awesome and she sacrifices so much for me and our family. And I couldn't think about doing it without her, and it just wouldn't happen. So she's the reason why we're here, why we're able to do it this way. And I love her to death.
Well
She is
said.
awesome, that's for sure. And our listeners obviously won't ever be able to see, but I always love to see your wife, and she's so tiny.
Yeah.
And then there's this giant Dennis, and I like to tease her, but she's a great woman. And
Yes.
obviously your two kids we spent a lot of time with, and I just can't wait to see Dennis become a kicker. That is awesome.
It's your fault. It's your fault.
Well, let's jump to legacy as we end up our day together. And Dennis, is there a memorable relationship or experience that's occurred in your life that's left a lasting impression?
Yeah. So I tell you what, man, my dad, man, he's the one for me. He passed a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago. But like I said, our relationship that we had together, the support that he gave me while growing up, even when I got, to be an adult age, the way he followed me around while I was playing when I was in high school and in Alabama. I don't think there were many games that he missed, whether we were in Tuscaloosa or, just anywhere in the country playing. He was there. He was there. He did everything he could to be there. And he is my role model. He's my guy, and everything I do, I do it because of what he taught me, and I do it to make sure that I'm making him proud. So that's my guy, man. I love him to death. I wish he was still here to see us, doing some of the things we're doing right now. I know he's still seeing it, but I definitely wish he was here in the physical to be able to talk to him. So he's my greatest memory, my fondest memory of all time.
How has your faith and understanding of identity helped you navigate the highs and lows of this performance-based industry of sports?
Yeah. I would say, just understanding where understanding where promotion comes from.
Oh, good.
And that comes from my mom. She told me that all the time. I said, my dad, I understand where promotion comes from. It doesn't come from man. It doesn't come from us. So anytime I have new opportunities or anytime, I'm forced to have to make a change or something like that, I understand where those opportunities are coming from. And
Wow.
it doesn't have anything to do with us as people, as humans. All those opportunities, all those promotions come from God. So anytime I have a new opportunity coming my way, sometimes they're sad, when you're leaving at the time, or when you're losing a job. Obviously, that's not a fun time. But like I said, obviously at the end of the day, that promotion or that new opportunity, it's coming from Him. So that keeps me grounded. That keeps me believing that no matter what happens, I'm gonna be okay.
Well said.
Dennis, if you're sitting down having lunch with somebody and they say, Dennis, what's the passion of your heart, or what gets you up out of bed every day? What would you say?
Number one, my family. My two kids and my wife. They drive me to do what it is I do and to go as hard as I do all the time. But then just being grateful for the gifts and the talents that I have. I didn't get these things on my own. And for me to be able to have these things, I want to make sure I'm being a good steward of it. God gave me these gifts, He gave me these talents, and I want to make sure that I'm putting them on display, and that I make sure that He's shown in these gifts and talents as well too. So that's the reason why I get up every day. That's the reason why I do it. For my family and to show the world that He gave them to me, and I'm gonna do right by Him.
When someone encounters Dennis Alexander, what do you want them to experience, and what do you want them to remember?
Just a genuine experience. I don't want them to think, or see anything that's fake. I don't want them to see a facade. I want them to see the real me. And that's whatever that comes that day or at that moment. But I want it to be genuine. I want it to be what it's supposed to be. But I want it to be somebody that they can, if they have some issues or if they have some questions, they can ask. They're not afraid to ask, not afraid to approach me and talk to me. I just want it to be, what it's supposed to be. And I always want to be approachable. I always want, my players or whoever, if they have something that they want to just come talk, I want them to be able to feel comfortable enough that they can just come share and talk with me whenever they want to.
Well, Dennis, we always close our time out by what we call final words or words of life to our listeners, or is there something on your heart that as we close, and then Austin will follow and then I'll finish it, that you'd like to share?
Well, number one, I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to share on your platform. I think this, what you guys are doing right now is awesome for coaches, because we don't all the time, we don't always get a voice to kind of, do this and share what we've learned, what we've done, our careers. Nobody ever really cares about what coaches have ever done. They just want to make sure you're winning on the field. But I appreciate, what you guys do, for, like I said, for giving us a voice and, being able to, share our story, and hopefully, some of the things that I've talked about, it can help to encourage some other coaches that are out there that probably hadn't had the perfect coaching, career, because obviously there are going to be ups and downs, but we got to deal with it either way. And, I'll tell anybody, that, just like what we just talked about, the ups and downs are for a reason. Wherever you are in your career, you're there for a reason. You got to learn from it, and continue to grow from it. And I think that's going to be the biggest deal for me.
Thanks.
Coach Alexander, for me, I mean, I'm just, like I said off air, I'm just so thankful for who you are. And, I watched you and I really respect you and all you've done for my dad over the time that you were at East Central. And, we're cheering for you as you move forward. I know just sitting and listening to your story, the thing that caught my attention was towards the end when you just talked about promotion and understanding where that comes from. I mean, that was so wise. And that was obviously coming from your mom, is what you said, is just understanding that, we all have different seasons in our lives and different circumstances that happen, but the ability to be content in those situations and use the gifts that you've been given, like you talked about, where you're at, where your feet are planted, um, is sometimes the best platform that we have. And sometimes we miss out on those platforms because we're so discontent and we're not happy with the way your career's going, or the frustrations that happen in your life, or the uncertainty. But when you understand who's the promoter, you understand that, hey, I can walk into any situation and bring light where I'm at. And to me, your story was a beautiful picture of that. And once again, just me watching you over the 8 years I got to watch you, I'm thankful for who you are and what you stand for, and how you coach.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, as I sat and listened, and this is I get an extra benefit than most people don't, because we've worked together for 8 years. But first of all, I just want to tell you, as a father, your dad's proud, Dennis. Your dad's proud of you. And I was fortunate to meet your father, but I know he's proud of you. And he's saying, well done, Dennis, well done. But the words that I would use to describe you, most people would say, well, those aren't football coaching words, But I have, again, working with you and just listening to your heart today, number one, you're grounded. And that's a tribute to your parents. You're grounded, and grounded in the right way. And then I think about just the care that you have had for players. I saw it every day in our program. The players knew that you cared. You were a good coach, but above and beyond just the coaching piece, you really cared for them. And they saw that you were genuine, that you were compassionate, that you were faithful, that you're loyal. I mean, these are things that go way beyond the field, but they're the things that I think some player 20, 30 years from now, that's what they'll remember about Coach Alexander. So I just am honored to call you friend, to have worked with you for as long as we have. And I'm looking forward to what continues to happen in your career. And I know that Austin and I and our family will always be pulling for the Alexander family as well. And just know I love you deeply.
Yes, I appreciate it, Coach, man. I love you guys too, man.
So Austin and I, Dennis, want to say thanks for just taking your time to share with our listeners today at Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.